building between 3 and 6 or 7 restaurants a week right now, opening 3 to 7 restaurants a week, both in the US and internationally. So it really boils down to stealing share from others, frankly, and creating occasions that people choose your brand over a different brand. What you're going to see a lot of is pictures of people interacting with our real food. Not airbrushed, not, studiotized. We don't have, food stylists making all of our stuff. It's just our stuff in the store that someone's putting in their hand and putting in their mouth and reacting to. We lean a lot into the visuals for our product. You hear the story all the time of someone goes into a fast food joint and they compare it to the picture that they were sold, and it's totally different. It's a completely different looking product because the reality is they have to go and make it pretty.
Run your day with Runday.ai.
Brendan, hello. Happy Friday. How are you, my friend?
Happy Friday. I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day in Cincinnati.
I am calling from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's nice and sunny. It's a little bit rainy here today, and on my way to Atlanta and then the Hamptons later this month.
Too shabby. That's not a bad little ticket to have. It's not bad.
Well, tell us a little bit more about the business at Dave's Hot Chicken. Sounds like you guys are growing both domestically and internationally at a pretty aggressive clip. And, a lot of people would love to understand how you guys are doing that and, the excitement behind the brand.
Yeah. So, chicken's a very competitive space, but Dave's has carved out a very interesting niche in hot chicken. And I'd argue with a brand that's very compelling. We're building between 3 and 6 or 7 restaurants a week right now, opening 3 to 7 restaurants a week, both in the US and internationally. So this is a brand on a tear right now. I think we're, going back to 2017 when the brand was founded, but really started growing in 2020, started with a base of just a handful of restaurants, and now we're pushing 500. So growing like wildfire and taking share from the other folks in chicken and the other folks in fast casual.
It sounds like you'll nearly double that in the next couple of years.
Yeah. We're on pace to be, well over 500, maybe into 600s by the end of this year. And we're going to keep going from there. So the franchisees love us. They're making money. We're in a situation where we have a very competitive product and frankly, a very distinct brand. So that's a good recipe for franchise success, and they're loving it and wanting to keep opening more.
At the highest levels of the global economy, companies are struggling with growth. The population growth we've experienced over the last 100 years has, slowed down. And in some cases, we see severe population declines. And that kind of sort of global, America, of course, is a little bit different. We have a very interesting and always open kind of immigration, aspect of our country, of course. But as you look at domestically and internationally, in a world where the populations aren't growing anymore, how are you guys, what are the key tenets that are letting you double in a number of years?
Yeah, it really boils down to stealing share from others, frankly, and creating occasions that people choose your brand over a different brand. That's a tough market to be in, but we are in a situation where you have a million choices of where to go to lunch or dinner. That's just the truth. And we're trying to be a better choice. So I think it becomes more about taking share from others and taking kind of share of stomach that people have, where they're willing to give you a shot versus someone else. So, we're not counting on population growth. We're counting on better brand, better product being the primary drivers of growth for us.
Share of stomach, that is a really interesting way to put it. And, we've seen, food becoming something that's, one, very expensive in this country, but also not necessarily that high quality anymore. Right. I grew up in a country here where there was very high, organic became a term later, right? Like all food was organic once upon a time. And the food, the just quality, that you guys have put into your brand is quite impressive. Talk to me about how you guys have been able to differentiate in that way versus, kind of you're taking from others and they're sort of following a formula that they've been on repeat for a long time, but you guys are being more innovative in achieving this growth.
Yeah, I think it really boils down to the choices you make when you build out your products, right? You can choose to use mass-produced stuff. You can choose to just focus on margin and cheap, so you can have a super low price point, or you can not do that and decide to make a better quality product. An example is our chicken is all halal. That's a choice. It's an expensive choice, frankly. to make sure that when you bite into a slider at Dave's, our version of a chicken sandwich,
Yeah.
your experience is very different than going to the gas station or going to a fast food joint. So I think you do have to make specific choices about what you put into your food. Now, again, we're fried chicken. We're not your healthy choice. If you're looking to get a salad, you don't come to Dave's. But I do think the choices you make into the components, especially your core products, make a huge difference in whether someone actually has a great experience with your brand and wants to come back, or whether they just look at you as, cheap stomach fill, which is not the place we want to play.
Let's talk about that a little bit. I've been discovering in my health journey that ingredients really define how you feel and how your body reacts to something. I have a big sweet tooth, so many of the original recipes for things like donuts and brownies, if you go back in time, didn't have any sugar in them. And then, high fructose corn syrup is kind of this, one of the sweeteners often used in a lot of the food that we consume in America. And so, it was very interesting to me to realize that the foods that I craved, that I liked, you could still have them, but that the ingredients can be done very, very differently, and it changes the glycemic index of that food substantially. And of course, with RFK sort of flipping the food pyramid upside down in the new one that has a lot more diversity of things like chicken in it, we no longer have this foundation of carbohydrates as the main recommendation from our government and from our doctors and, the scientific universities. Has that shifted the messaging for you guys, or is that something you guys have always sort of held on to and the world just changed around it?
Yeah, I mean, we still offer things that have sugar and carbs in them. So that's, if you desire that, that's something that's easy to access at a place like Dave's. But I think it does change your choices on, again, your core products.
It's all about the choices, yeah.
That's right. So when you again, you can get a chicken sandwich from a gas station down the street, and you know what you're getting. You know what that thing is. That thing is not, from a smaller farm. It's from some mass produced kind of scenario. It's not. When you bite into it, you can tell that it's been reconstituted or whatever. It's kind of been nuggetified versus, a true piece of meat that feels like meat. Again, frying it makes it taste a little better, so that's a nice way to add some flavor to it. But at the end of the day, we use tenders. We use real chicken tenders from real chickens from specific sourcing that we know you're gonna love it. And I think you can see it in the food when you physically order and like you have a bun and the chicken perfectly fits within the bun. That is a sign that they did that on purpose. They designed that product to fit that mold, versus our tenders are huge, hang out of the bun, but they're all different sizes because it's real. It's real stuff that we source specifically because we know the experience is different there. So I think it is a choice you make. It's an expensive choice, because your food cost goes up, because your sourcing gets more difficult, because when, there's a problem that reduces inventory of that specific kind of product, it gets a little harder to bring into the restaurant. But we would rather take that compromise than, make it where you bite in it and that this is something that came out as gloop versus as actual meat. So I think it's just a choice a brand has to make to decide whether that's the kind of thing they want to offer their customers, or are they going to cut corners. I mean, as an example, our founder, one of our founders, we had two primary founders, but three friends kind of started the brand. He was a fine dining chef. Dave is a legit chef that doesn't really like fast food. And the reason he wanted to make a chicken sandwich that was different than everyone else is he wanted one that he was willing to eat, out in the market. And that's what we produced.
Talk about how you tell that story in today's world with digital being, we're overwhelmed with content. There's so many narratives, false and true. How do you get that message across in terms of your digital strategy today?
Yeah, I mean, again, one of the big advantages of making stuff that's got good origins and good product is visually you can tell. Like just instinctually, when you look at it, you can see that it's different. So a lot of our stuff is very visual. If you go to our Insta, for example, or you go to any of our social channels, what you're going to see a lot of is pictures of people interacting with our real food. Not airbrushed, not, studiotized. We don't have, food stylists making all of our stuff. It's just our stuff in the store that someone's putting in their hand and putting in their mouth and reacting to. So fortunately, I think if you start with a great product and you're proud of that product, you don't really have to cut corners in that area or overproduce things. Our stuff looks pretty raw and pretty in the wild because it is. Because you look at it and instinctually you react to it like that looks like actual chicken, not like something that, comes in a paper box or came in a big bag from some big manufacturer. So we lean a lot into the visuals for our product.
Why is that so rare these days? Is it just a bunch of MBAs crunching numbers on the spreadsheet, or is it just kind of just the founders of some of these other chains are just no longer operating?
I think it boils down to cost. I think a lot of people want to squeeze as much margin as they can out of every sale. So they make a lot of compromises on their food, which leads to stuff that doesn't look good. I mean, again, you hear the story all the time of someone goes into a fast food joint and they compare it to the picture that they were sold, and it's totally different. It's a completely different looking product because the reality is they have to go and make it pretty. Otherwise, it's not pretty. So I think it's a business choice where people are actively deciding we're going to produce better product and we're going to pay to make sure that product gets in market. And frankly, build a brand that actually warrants the value of that product. And if it's good, people will keep coming back. And if it's not, you need to rethink your product.
Are you having any challenges or innovations with that authenticity in this age of AI, where we are now generating images and videos that most people are starting to be unable to differentiate from reality?
Yeah, I mean, we don't use AI for anything that is customer facing. What we use AI for is things in the background, analysis, making choices about media, things of that nature. It's decisions that normally would be left to a team is now funneled through AI in a lot of cases. Again, I'm not knocking anybody who uses AI, but I think, again, just like the food stylist, we had to make the product pretty for it to be presentable. AI does that. And I think most people can still tell the difference. And they certainly can tell the difference when they show up and buy the product and see that this doesn't look anything like what was promised. So when you get down to it, I think it does create challenges from a standpoint that everyone's stuff looks good, from the outside. But when they actually order the product, they can see that's not reality. So I think AI is great when it's used properly. For a food brand, for something you're going to actually go and buy, when it lets you down, that's a big red flag in my view.
In terms of operations, marketing, and running the businesses, how are you guys leveraging technology in this age of AI we're entering now?
Yeah, a lot of analysis has moved to AI to help us make decisions much more quickly. What used to be my previous brands, Wendy's and Papa John's and some other really big brands. You had teams of people doing that work. Now it's a person or two that is helping you with AI, helping you get down to actionable decisions. So that is the primary way. Is it really focuses your attention to decisions that are more meaningful, helps you comb through the crazy amount of data that you have access to, and make decisions more quickly and more informed decisions that result in better outcomes. So it's mostly in the background for us, but it's a big part of our background.
What are some of the data sets that are most relevant to what you guys are doing? Is it more traffic patterns, weather, more memes and social activities? What goes into some of that analytics you talked about?
Yeah, so all that is part of the mix. Really, when you get down to it, though, it's transaction data and consumer response to products. Those are the two biggest areas that we use. So we look at, does someone react well to the product? Does that create retention? Does that create check or traffic growth? And oftentimes connect those into opportunities that we can actually, push the brand in a more fruitful way going forward. But mostly it boils down to transaction and consumer reaction data.
So you're looking at like loyalty in terms of transactional data. Are you measuring that just through the financial transactions, or how do you know that somebody's coming back to you again and again?
Yeah, financial transactions in part. We have a CDP, so we have a system that helps us understand what's happening and whether someone's coming back often through our loyalty system, but also just through a CDP. So we look at things like credit card tokenization. So we don't know it's you, but we know that someone came in, 3 times a month or 4 times a quarter or whatever the number is. And that gives us a signal of, are they buying the things that we assume they would buy? Are they returning for those things? Are they changing up what they buy often? Are they lapsing at a certain period because of an offering we have or a price point we have or something else? So mostly it boils down to the CDP system that helps us understand what's going on, our loyalty system to a point. even though that's only a fraction of your transactions. So I think if you just make decisions on your loyalty system, you're actually limiting the base of data pretty dramatically. Those are also your most loyal customers by definition. So mostly it's CDP data, transaction data, and consumer reaction data.
What's the most likely way for people to encounter your brand for the first time? Is it usually a friend bringing them, or is it some kind of social media that you guys are doing?
Yeah, social is a big part of our world. So we've built a huge audience on TikTok, Insta, platforms of that nature. So social is a big deal for initial brand awareness for us. We do run media, so video media, places like YouTube and CTV and things of that nature to get some awareness. But a lot of it is word of mouth. I mean, most of it happens through social, through word of mouth. But we do hear a lot of folks just say, you got to try this because it's something different. If you're used to, again, not knocking anybody in our category, if you're used to the typical chicken products, Dave's is different. And people notice that, and they usually express that pretty vocally, typically through social, and we benefit from that.
And your locations, are they primarily corporate owned or more franchises?
Almost all franchise. We have 10 corporate locations. The rest are all franchised.
Yeah, I love the way you present the brand right here. And then for members of the audience that are investors that are looking for opportunities, can you talk a little bit about why this is a better investment than, say, real estate or stock market or other things you might be doing?
Well, I mean, one, I think you do have to have a love for the category, love for food. So that's a bar that you have to cross first. And typically our franchisees, almost in every case, own another concept. So they have another similar-ish concept. They have a Jersey Mike.
So they're coming from another brand and adding to it.
Right. They have something else that's sort of in the basic space of restaurants and a successful restaurant. We look for folks that are in concepts where they're building rather than declining. So generally you're in the space already. But yeah, I mean, I think the restaurant business is a hard business. So a lot of people who own restaurants, franchisees, don't make a lot of money. Fortunately, our business makes money. So for a lot of folks, this becomes sort of a passion point first, something that they're already interested in, and then it moves to, well, the economic model is pretty damn good. So you can own Dave's, and if you're good at local marketing, you're good at operations. Generally, you make a lot of money.
You do well.
Dave's or several Dave's. So really, the economic model is very attractive. But again, there's lots of places to put your money. You have to be passionate about this space so you can make it really successful.
What is your theory on the digitalization and AI enablement of the ordering process? There's different. I almost think that things are going to get polarized, and even for that individual, it'll be at different moments. You want different things. In some cases, you want to, like, I'm a user of Grok as my primary AI. If I want to order a sandwich to pick up, I'd rather just tell Grok what I want, have it use MCP or whatever mechanism to place that order. Other times, I want to, I'm not in a hurry. I want to maximize the human engagement, have people check in on me, see if I want something else. And, I'm seeing a lot of data seeing that the same person can behave in different ways. Are you seeing those kind of patterns with your customer base? And what is your theory on the future of the ordering? Will it be more on people's own phones through an AI chat layer, or tablets, or human presence?
Yeah, I think you're totally right. What it really boils down to is how you want to interact with the world today. We do find the channel you come in on tends to be the stickiest channel for you, the one that you stay with. And there is a big exception there, and that's folks like DoorDash and Uber Eats. So the third-party guys, those folks tend to use those heavily, and that's their primary way of interacting with a lot of brands. So it really does depend the channel you come in on. Frankly, we just want to make our stuff accessible. We don't want to make it complicated and hard to use. So if someone wants to come into a Dave's, awesome. That's the vast majority of our traffic. If someone wants to use our app or some other tool to interact with us or order from us, awesome. Our stores are built to be kind of an experience. So you walk into a Dave's, it doesn't feel like you're walking into a typical, fast casual, fast food joint. So we do think there's a huge role for the physical place to help establish the brand and improve the experience. I think generally the food experience at most restaurants is best in the restaurant, just because you're not dealing with 20-minute delivery times or food that's sitting around or whatever. All our stuff is made to order, so we don't go and make your sandwich until you ask for it. We don't fry the chicken until you ask for it. So that can lead to a bit longer time, but we think the food quality is worth that. So we want to be anywhere people want to access us, but we also want to make sure the product and the experience is solid. And in some cases, it can get a little rough. So we're playing with a lot of things right now, drones and robot delivery and all sorts of mechanisms that open it up to whoever you want to
Wow.
work with us. You can work with us. I don't think those things are going to be giant in scale for the next 6 months or a year, but it's coming. If you're in a big city right now, you're on a college campus. My daughter's looking at colleges right now. You're on a college campus. You can have a little robot that pulls up to your dorm room, and you open the top, and there's your food. And frankly, it stays hot because that's warmed, and it's just coming to you. It's a very simple process that takes out some of the friction.
Yeah, here in Fort Lauderdale, we have these robots they're wandering the streets, are able to cross the street on their own, and I've multiple times picked up Uber delivery from there. And just looking at my location, how close you got, I was trying to pick up a sandwich on before we spoke today, but didn't quite get enough time. But I think I'm going to order one from dinner from Uber Eats or DoorDash. But I could definitely see the way battery technology with solid state is going, even that distance from Davie here to Fort Lauderdale, that is something, that's a line of sight distance.
Yeah.
And so that is something that is surmountable by drone technology in the near future. And to pick up, there's not that much weight to the kind of, this type of food, sometimes fast food in general. And so, I have several drones. I'm a big drone fanatic, my drone can probably make it to your restaurant, but not back today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
we're playing around with a lot of technologies like that right now, working with some really good partners. It's not really about like expanding the delivery radius so much. It's more about maximizing, we want you to get the food quick because we want it to be hot. We want it to be the best it can be. Right. I don't care who makes the fries. If you have French fries and they sit for 30 minutes, they're not going to be nearly as good as when they come straight out the fryer and put in front of you. So we're working with all sorts of technologies to try to maximize basically the food quality at the end of the day. So if you're 20 miles out, maybe you're not going to get Dave's, but if you're 5 miles out or 8 miles out and we can get you something 10 minutes sooner, we want to do that because we want you to have we put a lot into the food. We want to make sure the food is killer.
Yeah, especially in urban areas. I moved to this area. Probably one of the main reasons was that the traffic in Atlanta was so bad 8 years ago. And now, I live a scooter lifestyle. So like this is a distance my scooter cannot surmount. So the idea, and of course, I can get an Uber Eats, but there is that during rush hour, there's a pretty long commute. And so, drone delivery right to the balcony or some part of the building, I definitely see that as the future. I'm glad you guys are exploring that.
Yeah. And past that, we're building a lot of restaurants. So there should be one near you eventually. Just hold out. They're opening very quickly.
All right. Well, I'll order one today and give you my thoughts as well. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Stay ahead of the curve. Hit that bell for notifications and join us next time.